What's up guys, Maelstrom here. If you enjoy the video then like, subscribe and leave a comment down below so I can keep on making these awesome videos for you guys. Nephew, come over here. Come and meet Naruto. Minato said, excited and happy at the sight of his newborn son. Shisui didn't need to be told twice as he quickly walked over to see his newly born cousin. Shisui smiled as he saw Naruto. He noticed that Naruto had jet black hair with a slight tone of a fiery red that streaked through like that of his mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Like every Uchiha, Naruto has black eyes but seemed blacker than any ever seen. He's one of a kind, uncle. Shisui exclaimed with joy seeing Naruto. Resembling so much of Minato the fourth Hokage, with touches of Kushina. No Uchiha shared the same look of Naruto, as none shared both Uchiha and Uzumaki blood, nor did any ever have whisker marks on their cheeks. Naruto definitely fit Shisui's statement, he is truly one of a kind. That he is. Minato said with pride. He turned to Kushina, here you go my love. He said as he leaned over and handed their son to her to hold. Kushina was exhausted from just having given birth to Naruto, but holding her son brought out newfound energy as her expression changed to that of joy. She held him close as she looked onto Naruto while Minato held her in a hug as well. Hello there Naru, it's your mother talking to you. She said with a smile and sing-song tone. It was obvious that she was tired but her want to be with her son outweighed that feeling. Minato was smiling wider than ever before. Shisui, come for a photo. You should be in it. He said with a waving gesture for his nephew to come. Shisui's parents had died during the war when he was 5, Minato took him in as they were the only ones left of their family. Naturally they developed a strong bond that was like father and son. Minato expressing that he wanted Shisui in the family photo showed him that he still held their bond even though his own true son has been born. It would be a lie if Shisui said he hadn't been worried that with Naruto's birth, he'd be pushed away and forgotten in a sense. Those worries were now cast out and in that place was happiness and belonging. Quickly he took his place within the middle of them, Kushina holding Naruto with Minato's left arm around her and his right hand on Shisui's right shoulder. All having large smiles with the exception of a half-sleeping Naruto. Uncle, I can't wait for him to get bigger. So many things we can do. Shisui said, excited for the possibilities and the future with them all together. Yes, but don't be so quick to look ahead, enjoy the moment. Don't take anything for granted or consider a moment insignificant in turn for another. Never know when it'll be gone, maybe you would wish to return but at that point you won't be able. Minato said. Yeah, I guess you're right about that. Still though, as much as he's adorable as a baby, it will be so much more fun when he's bigger. Shisui said while wiggling his index finger around the hands of Naruto who was trying to catch it. Minato, I'd really like some rest. Take Naruto. Kushina said with a yawn after finishing as her tiredness caught up to her. They were in a hideout surrounded by seals and umbu. She was in a bed but was nowhere near as comfortable as their own home, but it would have to do. After all, the seal that holds the Kyubi weakens during childbirth, precautions had to be made. Only the people present along with the third Hokage knew of where and when this was taking place outside the village. The third Hokage was Minato's advisor and friend, his wife was the lead doctor during the procedure, and that is also how the third Hokage also knew. If the Kyubi were to escape, everyone knew that no one man can defeat it. The seals surrounding the hideout and within the room were designed to hopefully hold the Kyubi as well as constantly drain its chakra. It would be in a weakened state upon re-entering the physical world, so by constantly draining chakra from it, they hoped that it could never regain its power or recharge and potentially can reseal it within another host if they were unable to reseal it within Kushina for whatever reason. Although with a force as that of the Kyubi, the most powerful tailed beast, everything was speculation in regards to if they could truly hold it back. The only man that had the power to truly hold it back was the Shodai Hokage. Madara doesn't really count as he couldn't truly hold it on his own. It is true that he could use genjutsu from his Sharingan to manipulate or even control the Kyubi, but that wouldn't last. Hashirama could imprison the Kyubi within his wood-style techniques and that would in a sense be the end of that problem. He could do it to every tailed beast at once, however that's never been his intent and never sought them to control them. Minato being present also gave opportunity for him to reseal the Kyubi, if not he'd use his Sharingan to buy enough time for everyone to escape before he himself teleports Kushina, Naruto, Shisui, and himself back the village. His Sharingan wasn't as strong as Madara's, and currently no Uchiha had a Sharingan that could truly control the Kyubi. Only 2 people had the potential to freeze it for a time being, but they themselves would have to stand still as well. They were Minato and Fugaku. Fugaku could control it for a short time due to his Mangekyo Sharingan, but that would drain him of nearly all his chakra and it would more or less be a death wish. Shisui showed great potential and is hailed as currently one of the strongest Uchiha as he unlocked his Mangekyo just 3 years ago at age 7. The youngest ever to unlock it, and not only that but he's been a really gifted ninja to this point in terms of his abilities. A true master of the Shunshin technique as the only ninja that can use it effective in battle. On top of that he's a master of fire techniques as he can do most with a single hand sign, and his mastery of Genjutsu is currently second to none. Minato hasn't unlocked his Mangekyo and also doesn't use his Sharingan nearly as much as any of the Uchiha. He sees it as a tool to be used, but not depended on. Generally the Uchiha upon unlocking the Sharingan use it every chance they get and in every battle. That leads to someone being entirely dependent on the abilities granted by the Sharingan, and what was once a tool becomes a crutch. Minato gladly took Naruto from Kushina as he rested in on her and gave her a kiss to the forehead. He looked over to Shisui when they both felt an odd presence of someone that wasn't supposed to be there. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Minato stated with a glare to the masked man. He had an orange mask and wore a large cloak that hung baggy and hood was up. The only thing that they could tell was that he had a very malicious intent. Given that he was here, it was a safe bet the Umbu won't be responding as they were most likely dead or incapacitated. They stood still waiting for some attack, something to happen. Minato had to be careful as his wife was in no condition to fight or defend herself, plus he was holding his child. Without taking his eyes off the masked man he spoke. "Shisui, here, take Naruto. I can't risk anything here. I will be with you shortly." He handed Naruto to Shisui, but before he could say anything about wanting to help fight the man, Minato teleported him with Shisui to their house. Shisui now looked down to Naruto worried but knew that Minato was a very capable shinobi. He wasn't Hokage for no reason. All Shisui did was place Naruto down on a bed and remained by his side since there was no telling what the objective of the masked man was. Now that Naruto was with Shisui safe at his home, Minato felt more relaxed about the situation. However, his wife also still being here made him still be worried. Based on the fact that the masked man didn't seem to care that Naruto was gone led to the conclusion that he may be after the Kyubi. With that being the case, now he stood between the man and Kushina, and took out one of his special kunao. "That jutsu won't help you in this, yandame," the masked man said in a deep tone. Minato didn't really care to what he was saying as he was threatening the safety of those he loved. Without even a second wait, he hurled the kunao at the man who just stood there. The strange thing to Minato was that it just went right through. He knew this wasn't a clone and was indeed the man, so he teleported to the kunao and tried to slash at the man only to phase right through. This doesn't make sense. What is going on? Minato thought as the man became intangible during his attacks. The man laughed too easy. And below the two of them the ground started to glow. This shocked Minato as his eyes widened, and just before the ground blew up from the explosive tags he teleported to a different location in the woods outside the hideout. When did he place those? How does that intangibility work and what is he planning? Minato thought as he stood up from the kneeling position he landed in and looked back to the hideout. The seals were gone and he saw the bodies of the Umbu. They weren't dead, but even if they awoke, they couldn't fight until a few days at least. What was worrying is that he could no longer feel the marker he had on Kushina. Normally he'd be able to sense it no matter where she was or how far. Even if she had died, the marker would remain. Not knowing where she was made him all the more certain that this was the goal of the man. He wanted him separated from Kushina and most likely to get the Kyubi set free. After a few minutes he could once again feel the seal he had on Kushina and teleported to it. He noticed a few things. The Kyubi was set free and the eyes had a Sharingan pattern. On top of that, it was about to kill Kushina and he grabbed her and shunshined to the top of some trees. "Fast as ever I see," the masked man commented before warping away. "Kushina, are you alright?" Minato said with worry all over his face. She looked paler and was extremely weakened. He knew she would die soon since any Jinchuriki that gets their tailed beast extracted normally dies instantly. Her being an Uzumaki is the only reason she still is alive currently, and if he could reseal the Kyubi right away she could live since the chakra would heal her, but if too much time is taken and she is separated for too long then she'll die regardless. With all that considered, he teleported to their home and Shisui stood up seeing Minato's return carrying a pale and weakened Kushina. "Here, lay with Naruto, Kushina," Minato said, placing here down beside Naruto. He grabbed his vest and put on his Hokage cloak. "I'll be back shortly." Then he teleported to the Hokage monument overlooking the village. A few moments earlier, the masked man warped into existence just outside the village. "Summoning jutsu," he said and slammed his hand onto the ground, and in a large cloud of smoke appeared the Kyubi. "Destroy everything." The Kyubi started charging a tailed beast bomb and shot it at the monument to then have a collateral effect of taking out the Hokage building and Intel HQ. However, just before it could hit, it hit a large seal and started being absorbed into it, then disappeared, and the explosion was far from the village but still heard and the explosion visible in the distance. "I've gotta be careful about where I send those," Minato stated and turned around to see the masked man warping into existence. Instantly the man started warping Minato and was just about to send him into his dimension until there was a yellow flash and Minato was gone. He's faster than my Kamui." Minato landed in a flip and now laid on his back. "Damn that ability of his, what is it? He can teleport without seals and apparently can send others away. Where would I have ended up?" Minato was extremely confused, and the jutsu the man was showing made him worried all the more. First was intangibility, now transportation. Can the two be connected? As he was contemplating all he was learning, the masked man warped in front of him. "You are truly fast, Yondaime. However, this is the end for you." The man now pulled out a chain and connected it to his wrists with it hanging behind him. Minato noticed that as he attacked, he would be intangible, which meant that he would go through, but then the chain would cut through him. So his intangibility won't allow him to attack, he must be tangible in order to attack. Still, that is an issue as he can be indestructible until he chooses. Minato took out a kunai and they charged each other. Back at the village. "Lord Third. The Kyubi is attacking," an Umbu captain said to Hiruzen, who was already gearing up. "Yes, I sense it. Go tell the Uchiha to help evacuate the civilians, then have them join the fight, but not until everyone is safe. Get any ninja to fight, however have the younger generation put into a barrier, we cannot lose them to this," Hiruzen said as he finished preparing for the battle ahead. "Hi!" the three Umbu exclaimed and shunshined to do their duty. Hiruzen appeared at the village gates and was briefed on the situation by a jonin. "We must hold the Kyubi back until the Yondaime can come," Hiruzen shouted as he summoned his adamantium staff and they started the battle. The adamantium staff is nearly indestructible and can expand infinitely. With those two abilities, he used it to push the Kyubi back away from the village while the other ninja were throwing jutsu after jutsu at it to try and help push it back. It was slow and rough for them, but it was working enough. They all knew they could never really kill a tailed beast, they were just manifestations of chakra given physical form. They are immortal, and if sealed into a Jinchuriki, even when that host dies, the tailed beast would die with them but reform after a couple years. Their only goal was to get the Kyubi away from the village and hope that the Yondaime can do something. Minato vs Masked Man. The fight had been going on for a few minutes and neither one was landing anything, since the Masked Man can just become intangible, while Minato was too fast for him. Minato glanced over to the village and the battle was visible as flashes of light from jutsus and the roars of the Kyubi could be heard. His gaze went back to the Masked Man. "What an interesting position you're in. You want to go and protect the village, as is your duty as Hokage, however you can't just let me go, can you?" the Masked Man said as he watched Minato looking back to the village throughout the fight. "Enough of this. I'm going to have to use High-Ration level 2, Minato thought as he ran at the Masked Man. They charged at each other and as Minato went he threw a kunai at the Masked Man and it started to phase through his head. The Masked Man was bringing his hand up to attack Minato while Minato charged up a Raise-Non. They kept charging and just as the kunai finally went all the through and just before the Masked Man could touch Minato, he teleported to the kunai and caught it in midair, then twirled his body around and slammed the Raise-Non into the Masked Man's back. The Masked Man was slammed into the ground as he couldn't react to the speed of the attack, and as he was on the ground, a High-Ration seal was placed onto his back. He teleported to that Kunao. The masked man thought as he felt the pain from the attack and got up to face Minato. It's time to end this, I need to get back to the village. Minato stated before he disappeared in a yellow flash and appeared directly in front of the masked man and slammed his hand onto the man's chest. A seal formed and glowed, then he jumped back. A contract seal. The masked man stated. You are no longer able to summon the Kyubi. Minato said and teleported back to the village, leaving behind a flash of yellow. Village. The battle was raging on and the Leaf was losing many shinobi to the Kyubi. It was an overwhelming force and there seemed to be nothing they could do. They were all starting to lose hope. Then there was a bright yellow flash and from the sky Gamabunta came crashing down, landing on the Kyubi. Everyone cheered as the Yondaime now arrived. Lord Fourth. What's the plan? Hiruzen shouted from the ground. I'm going to teleport it away from the village. But it's going to take a little time to teleport something this big. Gamabunta, I need you to hold it down. Minato said he started to prepare to teleport him and the Kyubi. It was going to take a lot of chakra and he already used a lot, teleporting the tailed beast bomb earlier, and the Hiraishin level 2 took a lot out of him, plus his fight didn't help to conserve energy. You better hurry. I can't hold him forever. Gamabunta shouted as he was struggling to keep the Kyubi down. After a few moments there was a flash of yellow and then Minato and the Kyubi were both gone. He did it. He's saved us. One of the shinobi said and all of them started to cheer. Hiruzen looked to a few Umbu and they knew it was still not over. We must find the Yondaime and provide assistance however we can. He said quietly as he didn't want to ruin the spirits of the shinobi. It was a grueling fight and they lost many. Minato and the Kyubi. They were far away from the village but still in fire country. Minato looked and noticed that the Kyubi still had lost the Sharingan pattern in his eyes and that currently it was still stunned at the moment. I've got to be quick. I will need Kushina to help me seal it. Naruto, I'm sorry. Minato teleported Kushina, Naruto, and also Shisui to his location. He looked to Kushina and had her set up a barrier of chakra around them and have her chakra chains wrap around the Kyubi. These chains are indestructible and drain chakra. Nothing, not even the Kyubi, can destroy them. They would last as long as Kushina willed them to, so long as she had chakra. Minato began preparing the ritual required. Shisui, watch over Naruto, will you? He's going to have a hard life from this point forward. Be his light in the darkness that will surround him. I will protect him with my life, uncle. Shisui said as tears started to come from his eyes. He was holding Naruto and when everything was prepared, he laid him down on the little bed that was made. Minato went through the hand seals for the Reaper summoning. The Kyubi, seeing what was going on, didn't want to be sealed and tried to kill baby Naruto with his claw. However, both Kushina and Minato jumped in front of it and were stabbed through the stomach and held the claw in place. Minato finished the summoning and placed the 8 trigrams seal on Naruto's stomach and with the help of the Shinigami sealed the chakra within himself before putting it into Naruto. The entire Kyubi was put into Naruto and now the Kyubi was gone, but now they were dying. Minato only had a few minutes until he died due to the use of the Reaper seal. Kushina had slightly longer. Is there anything you want to say to Naruto before we go? Minato asked, saddened that this would be the last time he was with Naruto. With tears and sadness but still the happiness of being a mother, there's so much. Naruto, I love you. I want you to be happy. It will be hard, I know, but don't give up. Being a Jinchuriki is something I would never want for you as it's lonely and dark. I wish you could be in never-ending happiness and joy full of love, but it may not go that way. You'll have your older cousin Shisui and he will take care of you. You'll also have Jiraiya later on as well, but don't follow in his actions, okay? They're not appropriate and it's a shame that he is that way. Be sure to always be respectful and kind and hold those few people that like you close to your heart and never let them go. They'll be the ones to keep you in the light. There's so much I wish I could teach you and wish I could be with you, Naruto, I love you. Kushina said, crying. Minato, I'm sorry I've taken all your time. Kushina said with tears still running down her face. Minato just smiled and held her close. It's okay. Naruto, listen to your mother, and try to take it easy on Shisui, okay? Don't cause too much trouble, alright? He's really young and this will be challenging, but I know you two will be great. How can you be sure it will all be okay? Kushina said crying. Because he is my son. Minato said with a smile. He looked to Shisui. Shisui, sorry that I'll be leaving you alone now, please help Naruto through this incredible burden. I wish that the villagers to look to him as a hero, as without him the Kyubi would destroy the village. Shisui nodded, he couldn't speak as he was crying. He didn't want to see them die, he always seen Minato as the most powerful shinobi ever and looked to him as if he were indestructible. Today only showed that no man is immortal, death comes for everyone. He also learned a rather ironic thing about heroes. They're seen as people who'd always be there and can never die, however in real life, the hero will generally always die, it's their sacrifice that makes them a hero. With one last hug with all of them together, Minato died and Kushina cried even more as the love of her life has passed away. Hiruzen with the three Anbu finally arrived to see Shisui holding a crying Naruto, Minato laying dead, and a barely alive Kushina. Kushina. Hiruzen said as he ran over to her. Minato sealed the Kyubi within Naruto. Shisui is going to take care of him. Please help take care of Naruto. Minato and I wish for Naruto to be seen as a hero for holding the Kyubi, but if it's possible try to keep it secret until he's had time to make a couple friends at least. It's a lot to ask and I know from personal experience that it will be hard. Kushina said before going limp and dying. Of course, Kushina. I will do my best to protect Naruto for you and Minato. Hiruzen stood up and signaled the Anbu to take Kushina and Minato to the village. He walked to Shisui and rested his right hand on Shisui's left shoulder. Shisui, this will be hard. Not just for him but for you as well. I'm taking you into Anbu so that your missions are limited and you'll be one of my guards so that I can keep you in the village with Naruto. When he's old enough to take care of himself you can choose to return to Jonin status or remain Anbu, but for now it will be this way. Shisui nodded and took it all in. What of his heritage? Hiruzen looked to him and thought of it. No one can know he is the son of Minato, at least until he's strong enough to protect himself. Shisui nodded, but him being with me. Yes, we'll have to cover up the fact that you're Minato's nephew. It's good that your relationship to them was never really publicly known, as even his marriage to Kushina was secret. Hiruzen said solemnly. So much secrecy had to be done in order to keep those close to Minato safe, but now the lost goes farther. Sadly it would make his son never know of his father or mother for a long time. Only few knew Minato was expecting a child, one being Kakashi. I believe Kakashi deserves to know. He was uncle's student and their connection was strong, plus I know he would like to know what has happened. I know he'd help as well. Shisui said looking at Hiruzen. Hiruzen nodded as you wish. Is there anything you need of me? Well, where do we go? I know I can't just go to the old estate. Shisui said looking down slightly. I'll have a house set up. For now go to the Hokage office and wait for me there. Hiruzen said and Shisui shined away. Minato, I will do my best to make your wishes a reality. Hokage office. Shisui sat crying holding Naruto. He lost the last family he had, but gained another. He still technically has the clan, but that wasn't the same. The Uchiha didn't even know of Naruto and also didn't know Shisui was the nephew of Minato. Fugaku had been friends with Minato after all. His wife Mikoto was best friends with Kushina, but Shisui was never around when they got together. Minato wanted to keep the secret of Shisui being his nephew from everyone since it was safer that way, and Fugaku and Mikoto were the only ones aside from Hiruzen, Jiraiya, the three Hokage guards, and Kakashi that knew of his relationship to Kushina. As such they were the only ones that knew that Minato and Kushina had a child on the way together. Although only Kakashi would learn of Naruto while the others wouldn't. Kakashi and Shisui were both so young still. Kakashi being 16 and Shisui 10. Naruto, I'll make sure you be strong and taken care of. I know Kakashi will gladly help as well. Shisui said looking down at him. The night ended, but there was so much that was to come, as it is only the beginning. Kakashi was walking through the streets of Konoha. The damage could have been worse given what happened, but still, after last night it was safe to say that things wouldn't be normal for a while. The loss everyone sustained left them all in a state of sadness. There hadn't been word yet on how many have been lost, but there were many that got hospitalized. A lot of the survivors can no longer be shinobi as the injuries were too grave. What troubled Kakashi the most was that his sensei hadn't been seen after he teleported the Kyubi away. No one knew anything. All anyone knew was that the Kyubi was defeated. Kakashi wasn't dumb, and if he hadn't heard anything then, that had to mean that Minato died. Kakashi looked up to the Hokage monument, and from his single visible eye, a tear shed as he felt he knew that again he lost someone close to him. Hokage office. Shisui, sorry to keep you waiting. Shisui stood up upon seeing the third Hokage enter the room. It's okay, Lord Third. The council is being assembled, they must know of what has transpired. This also means that Naruto's status as Jinchuriki will be known. And of his parents. That is not necessary right now. Obviously Fugaku knows, but nobody else needs to know. What if he wants Naruto? Shisui said. Hiruzen pondered on that. He hadn't really considered it before. Surely Fugaku and Mikoto would wish to be able to raise the son of their friend. However, they wished for Shisui to look after Naruto. Maybe we will speak with him prior. He'll respect the wishes of Minato. Hiruzen said. There was a knock on the door, and this surprised the two of them. Hiruzen gave permission for someone to enter. Ah, Kakashi. What a surprise. What can I do for you? Hiruzen said. Honestly, he wasn't looking forward to breaking the news to Kakashi. He lost so much already in his young life, hearing of more would only worsen things. Kakashi glanced around, he recognized Shisui, then he saw the baby and then looked to Hiruzen once more. So he is gone. Kakashi said. Yes, he is, this is Naruto. Shisui said. Kakashi watched over Kushina from time to time as he was one of Minato's personal UMBU members and was trusted by him more so than others. Mainly that was formed since Kakashi had been his student. That led to him knowing about Naruto's upcoming birth. Also, he now contains the Kyubi. Come again. Kakashi said, looking up from Naruto and back at Shisui. He sealed the Kyubi within Naruto with help from Kushina. Listen, Kakashi, I would like for you to help Shisui train Naruto when he's old enough to understand. Minato entrusted him to the two of you. Hiruzen said. I'll gladly help in any way. Shisui and Hiruzen smiled and were glad to know that they had been right. Although losing Minato hurt so much, together they can try and make it all better. Now to deal with the council. Hiruzen said. It was obvious that this was going to be a long meeting. The council made up of each of the major clan heads, and a few members of the civilian side made up the council. Along with the Hokage's advisors. However, since Minato was now dead, the question of who to take his place would be asked. Hiruzen knew he had to retake office, as he knew that Danzo couldn't be entrusted with the position and no one else really had the support to be Hokage. Orochimaru deserted, Tsunade had no intention on returning after her losses, and Jiraiya had a spy network and would probably not be emotionally prepared to take the seat, as he would soon learn that his student and great friend has died. That considered the last of the few people that were being in question for fourth Hokage had been Fugaku. He had the power, but didn't have the support of the people or as much support as Minato. Maybe now he could. Then there was also Danzo. He has been gunning for the position for ages now. His love for Konoha was never doubted, his methods however were never great. Danzo hated and distrusted the Uchiha, and would do anything to get rid of them. He only never did anything towards Minato since he was the only Uchiha he knew he'd lose to. That and Minato was actually rather different from other Uchiha. For some reason there wasn't a distrust. Everyone would most likely approve of Hiruzen's decision to retake office, aside from Danzo of course, but no one would really care about his opinion anyways. 30 minutes later. Thank you all for gathering this morning. I know that last night was hard on everyone. Hiruzen said. The council gathered, and among them was Fugaku Uchiha, Saminyazuka, Inoichi Yamanaka, Shibuya Barame, Shikaku Nara, Hayashi Hyaga, Chauza Akimichi, and then the advisors being Danzo, Homura and Koharu. I sadly must inform you that there is another loss you must know. Hiruzen looked into space, not looking anyone in the eye, and sighed. The fourth Hokage has died during his fight against the Kyubi. The room was silent. Their Hokage was dead, and now the village was unprotected per se. The cage position and person as cage was the village's shield against attack. They were the village's last line of defense. Without the Hokage the village is vulnerable. As such, I'll be assuming the role of Hokage again," Hiruzen said, bringing everyone out of their thoughts. Danzo was infuriated but said nothing as now wasn't the time. He knew the village needed someone to fill the role, and most of all he knew Hiruzen's power. Hiruzen wasn't called the god of shinobi for nothing. Danzo and he were teammates and he got to see his feats firsthand. Hiruzen's reputation would do well to quell plots to attack Konoha. Even in old age Hiruzen was still one of the most powerful shinobi in Konoha and even in the 5 great nations. The other council members also approved of the thought of the Sandaime retaking the position. Hiruzen made eye contact with Fugaku and without saying a word was able to express that they needed to talk after everyone left. "So what do we do?" asked Hayashi clan head of the Hyuga. "We rebuild," Hiruzen said. With that everyone started to leave except for Fugaku. Hiruzen made a waving gesture and the Umbu were gone. What of the child Minato and Kushina were expecting? Fugaku went straight to the point as he didn't care about pleasantries at the moment. "Shisui, come out." Out of the shadows came Shisui still holding Naruto. They sealed the Kyubi into their son. "This is Naruto. What do you plan to do with him? Surely you won't just put him in the orphanage." "Shisui will raise him," Hiruzen said. Fugaku looked at Shisui. He had no bad thoughts towards him, in fact he respected the young Uchiha more than most. His power would someday soon surpass his own. He looked back to Hiruzen. "He's still young." "I am more than ready," Shisui said. "You didn't let me finish," Fugaku said with a slight chuckle. "You are still young, but you will have my support should you need it." This caught Shisui off guard as he was ready to start an argument to get him to approve. "I am guessing that it was his wish, as such I won't stand against it. Mikoto will be a little sad. I understand the need of secrecy and I won't tell my kids of his true heritage. You two can come see him whenever you please, Fugaku-sama." "Much appreciated," Fugaku said with a smile. He looked to Hiruzen and surprised them once again. "So what is your relation to Minato?" He wouldn't entrust his son to just anyone, and seeing as how Kakashi wasn't the one chosen, you must be even closer. Hiruzen looked at Shisui and got a nod. "He is Minato's nephew." "That explains it. However, it's odd that you weren't around whenever we came." "No matter. If that is all, I'll be returning to my family before gathering the police force." "Yes, you're dismissed." When he was gone, Shisui stated his surprise at how easy it went. In the end they were both glad that things went far easier than anticipated. The biggest surprise of all being Danzo's silence, however it wouldn't bother him. "So when will you tell the council of Naruto and the Kyubi?" "Hopefully not for a long while." "Well, let's take you to your new home." About 10 minutes later, they had finally made it to the house they will live at. It was located near the outskirts of the village and they had about 4 acres of land. They were distant in case Naruto ever began to lose control to the Kyubi. The hope was to limit damage and death, but even so, it would only do so much. "I can work with this. Once he is 4 I can begin training him, and this space is absolutely perfect." "Yes, however it also serves to dash." "I know, Sandaime-sama. You don't need to tell me." Hiruzen nodded also. "You now being a jonin means that we want you to take someone to train. We've selected someone you may be interested in." "Who would that be?" Shisui said, raising an eyebrow. "Itachi Uchiha. Son of Fugaku Uchiha." "Itachi Uchiha, interesting." In a week Shisui had his assignment to take Itachi through an exercise that would last 3 days. The goal was to track a target and capture them for intel. During the exercise he was to teach survival skills and of course methods of tracking to hopefully complete the goal. Shisui didn't know much about Itachi aside the fact that he was the son of the clan head and that he was apparently gifted. This he would have to check out. Itachi was only 5, so it would be interesting to say the least. Before that, however, he had to get situated in the new house and get someone to look after Naruto. He wanted Kakashi as he was the only one he trusted. But this made him wonder, if Kakashi and him both were to be on mission, who'd look after Naruto? Hiruzen might, but he still is busy as Hokage, so he wouldn't add to his troubles. Maybe Kakashi trusts someone, he'll have to figure that out. The village was starting to bounce back, pretty quick too. Rebuilds were underway and even some fortifying. It looked like they were planning to expand the walls, especially around the southern regions. There wasn't talk as for what the expansion of the village was for. Guesses were to just house more and just create more within the village, but it was odd still. There were rumors of a new compound system to take place, but at the moment it was speculation. As the training exercise neared, Shisui had been preparing his tools when he learned the hard way of making sure that nothing was within Naruto's reach. He'd managed to get one of Shisui's kunao and almost managed to try to eat it before he noticed. That would have ended so bad. Finally the day came and Shisui began walking to the house of Fugaku Uchiha. It was located a few blocks away from the police headquarters in the center of the village. Along the walk he noticed that people were beginning to be more livelier, as most had been mourning to this point. It was nice to see them returning to normal. Time can work miracles in some senses. But soon it would be on to business. However, Shisui didn't always take it too seriously, tending to be a little more lax than most. But now he would see the type of person Itake was. "Ah, Shisui, you're here for Itake, . Good morning, Fugaku-sama, and yes. Is he ready?" Fugaku nodded. "Itake. Shisui's here." A few moments later Itake walked out. He was about 7 inches shorter than Shisui and had hair that reached the base of his neck. "Hello Itake, I am Shisui. I'll be training you from now on," Shisui said, holding out a hand. Itake took it and shook his hand. He looked back to Fugaku, then stood beside Shisui awaiting their departure. "We'll be back in 3 days," Shisui said, and with that he touched Itake's shoulder and shunshined them to the entrance of the Forest of Death. "Do you know our objective, Itake? We are to track down a fugitive and bring them in for intel." "Yes, that is the main objective. So without a further ado, let's begin." They opened the gate and entered the forest. This forest is filled with deadly animals and is used for high-level shinobi. No one other than Jonin will generally go in there. Some Chunin, but for the most part not many really liked being in the forest. It is a great place for training, however. They were walking through trying to find some clues. The fugitive was given a 2-hour head start in setting up their decoys and going about their escape. In a way it was like keep away. The fugitive was never to leave the forest, and remain hidden by setting up traps, decoys, and anything to not be caught. There were no rules aside from the restriction of leaving the forest. Should there be confrontation, anything goes. Shisui was going to let Itake take the reins on this exercise as he wanted to see how well he could do, offering support when needed. There wouldn't be a point in this if Shisui led, as he had more than enough skill to handle this. Most of his missions were B rank or higher, and these types of situations often happen, especially when dealing with spies. Plus, Itake being a prodigy, well, he wanted to see about that. "Ah, find something, Itake." Itake was reaching into a tree trunk. "Hi. A scroll." Itake handed the scroll to Shisui, who opened it up and looked at the contents. It contained information on the fugitive, saying that he was an Earth-style user and a Genjutsu user. "Good eye, Itake. We got some useful information on our fugitive. What do you think?" Shisui handed the scroll back to Itake. "The decoys can be even more intricate given that we could accidentally trigger a Genjutsu of his." "That's right. Keep your senses up," Shisui said with a smile as they moved on. "He's got the book smarts. No doubt about that. I wonder about his skills," Shisui thought as they were moving through the trees. He smiled when he saw an opportunity. About 50 meters ahead of him, he noticed a large snake. It was half the size of a summoning. That was the odd thing about this forest, all the animals in it were abnormally huge, and that's what made it so deadly. As he saw it charging at him since he was in front of Itake, he just swung over to the side and turned around to see Itake make 2 slices through the snake, cutting it into 3 pieces with his tanto. "Not bad. Good job, Itake. Well, he's got some Kenjutsu training. I could definitely teach him some techniques in that." "Why are you smiling?" "Ah, it's nothing, Itake. But look, there seems to be 2 paths." They dropped down from the trees and now looked at 2 paths where it seems someone may have traveled. They were in a slightly moistened environment, so the footsteps were easy to notice since they sunk beneath the surface slightly. "So which way do you think?" Itake walked to the one on the left and began to look at it, analyzing every bit he could take in, and the same on the right. "The tracks are too perfect on this side, Our fugitive wants to get away. These are as if he stood in place on each foothold. There's no indication that a step was taken aside from the fact that there is a track. Well done. You are certainly right. Given that he's an Earth-style user, it is safe to assume that he manufactured those tracks to hopefully take us off his course. Shisui patted his shoulder and they began to follow the other set of tracks. Itake's knowledge and skills were impressing to Shisui. The only issue in his head was that he did things solely by the book. Like there was no flexibility in his thinking. It was good to have that knowledge, but in the real world it isn't always black and white. He'd have to try to get Itake to change that. The tracks led to a river and Shisui began to get some water and filter it. However, Itake was still looking around. You know, I think a fish may have left that mark. Shisui said as Itake seemed to be rubbing the moss on the side of a rock in the river. Itake looked frustrated by that. So it's not a decoy. Everything starts to look like them. Being able to confuse your pursuers is the goal as it gives many options. I guess I need better tracking skills. You're half right, Itake. Shisui said and took a sip of water. Here. They sat down on the rock that Shisui was on. It's because you're exceptional, Itake, that it's harder. Having the skills for tracking a fugitive is important, but so is understanding how he thinks. I see. Itake said and smiled. Shisui stood up, noticing the sun going down. Well, let's move on to the next part of the exercise. Itake nodded and they began to catch a few fish and set up an area to be situated for camp. Don't the books say to not use campfires? Shisui looked up. You're exceptional, Itake. I'm still inexperienced. Haha, you're right about that. Don't laugh. Itake said. I'm sorry. It just makes me happy. You've taught me a lot. That's what makes me happy. It's nice to eat a meal with someone that makes you at ease. Itake widened his eyes in surprise. Eat while it's hot, Itake. Itake took a bite and then looked back up to Shisui. I awakened the Sharingan. Is that why you don't want to be at home? How? It's the look you had, and that you came instantly to my side as if eager, not out of excitement. He noticed from the beginning. I understand, Itake. Just know, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. Itake smiled. After all. That's what friends are for, right? Itake nodded and smiled. It felt as some of the weight that he'd been carrying was slowly coming off. Suddenly they heard the sound of swords clanging together and immediately put out the fire and ran towards the sounds. What surprised them was to see an Umbu fall into the 6-inch deep stream with a gash on his shoulder. Are you all right? Shisui asked. He then noticed that what made him fall was some wire around his ankle and that it cut into him a bit. Metal wires, this can be dangerous. Suddenly 3 more Umbu dropped in. More Umbu. Shisui said. Hand us the traitor. The middle Umbu, who was also the biggest of the 3, said. What proof do you have to say he's a traitor? Shisui said. He's not quite the traitor, however he was information in regards to who it actually is. The one on the left said who was the woman of the group. What? That's what you're after? I'm going to Lord Hokage. The injured Umbu said. I'll help you to the best of my abilities. I, Itachi Uchiha, will also help Shisui. Itachi. Shisui said quietly as he glanced over at him, surprised that he'd jump in like this. Itachi was smart and talented, no doubt about that, however these were Umbu and this would get dangerous. Suddenly the female Umbu threw a kunao at the head of the injured Umbu and he was revealed to be a water clone. Oh well, my wires are covered in poison. He won't be getting far before his body goes numb. The 2 male Umbu charged at Shisui with their swords out while the female went after Itake, pushing him back away from Shisui. You Uchiha would dare try to push your luck and get in the way? She said to Itake before charging. Itake kept being forced to back up as she attacked with 2 swords vs his 1. Her attacks were acrobatic and with a final strike she spun to add more momentum into a more powerful swing. Itake had been barely keeping up and got knocked back with the final blow, giving him some much-wanted space. Sharingan. Itake said as his eyes changed from black into a spinning 2-tomo Sharingan. Then she charged once more as she didn't want to give him any time to think of a plan. Now her movements were much easier for Itaka to react to since he was practically one step ahead since his eyes can perceive her movement before it's done. Although now his defense was being strengthened, he still could not get any offense in since he wasn't exactly faster than her. Plus she didn't leave many chances to attack, having two swords allowed her to always maintain pressure, and if he parried one blow and tried to attack she still had a second blade to continue her advance. At this point it wasn't going anywhere and she decided to switch it up. She started throwing shuriken at Itaka and directing them with her wire. Itaka would dodge easily and then she'd change their direction with the wire making them land in trees or rocks. She threw a few kunai with the wire and those would get dodged and embed themselves on the floor behind Itaka. She keeps adding layers to the wire, doubling or even tripling over each other creating some sort of pattern. As Itaka kept dodging she began to try and increase the volume as it seemed like she was finishing off her plan of sorts. With the last few Itaka jumped through the air and she had thrown 3 more shuriken in preparation of that, he was forced to spin in mid-air to dodge the 3. I can see it. So this is the power of the Sharingan. After dodging the previous 3, he saw 3 more and threw his sword through centers of the shuriken and the sword got impeded on a stone to which he landed standing on the handle of his sword. The shuriken had still been spinning and he looked impassively at her. You've fallen into my trap, Uchiha. She cut a wire beside her. The wires all started to respond and some were snapping around Itaka but rather than ensnaring him, all of a sudden the wires changed course and caught around her throat and wrist choking her. How? A few minutes earlier. Shisui vs 2 Umbu. Shisui began on the defensive as both Umbu attacked him. They both would strike one after another keeping him on the defensive. Each strike he blocked effortlessly and had it been a single opponent he could counter but there being 2, the other wouldn't allow that. The bigger one tried to jump up in the air to do a powerful strike downwards but Shisui sidestepped it and as he was going to slash him, the smaller Umbu launched over the other trying to stab Shisui to which he pushed the blade to his left using his tanto and spun to his right backhanding the Umbu with his left. He followed up by sending a right kick to the Umbu's back which made him fall to the ground. Shisui turned around quick enough to block a strike from the bigger Umbu and he jumped away. Looks like Itaka has things handled. Guess I'll end things here. He brought his hands together, teleportation jutsu. Shisui began running around them and suddenly 2 more of him could be seen to his right, then another 3 on the opposite side of the Umbu mirroring the other 3. Then 2 more sets to make 4 sets of Shisui running around them in an evenly spaced increment. Shadow clones. The smaller Umbu said. The bigger Umbu shook his head, no, they're after image clones. I can't tell which is the real one. The smaller one said as he blocked a sword strike from one clone on his right, then a kick from his left, suddenly one appeared behind him and chopped the back of his neck knocking him out. Enough of this. The bigger Umbu said and slammed his fist in the stream causing a shockwave which forced the water up in the air. He looked up and saw that the clones still remained surrounding him, all holding their swords out in front of them with the blade parallel to the ground and left hand against the back of the blade. How are they still here? The Umbu asked. Shisui appeared behind him with his tantos tipped to the Umbu's back. My teleportation jutsu has no mass, therefore my clones won't be destroyed. He heard a loud whistle. Looks like the Jonin observing our training exercise have noticed. He backed off and sheathed his tanto. Upon doing so his clones vanished and left him alone behind the Umbu. The Umbu went and grabbed his teammates. We will be watching you, Shisui Uchiha, Itaka Uchiha. The Umbu said and shined away with his knocked out teammates. Who were they? Those Itaka were Lord Danzo's Umbu. I think it's time we start to head back. The exercise is over. Itaka began to take a step when he noticed a sharp pain through his foot and stumbled slightly. Take it easy, Itaka. Let me see. Shisui had Itaka sit down and he checked out his ankle before wrapping it. It'll be okay, just stay off it. He took Itaka onto his back, much to his displeasure which made Shisui laugh. They were finally back in the village when Itaka asked about why his ankle had been hurt. There's a slight gap in between what your Sharingan sees and how your body reacts. You see, no matter what, your body will always be slower than the perception of your eyes. They get stronger as you get stronger. So I'll always get hurt using the Sharingan. No. You're just not used to the new perception. You adapted quickly, and I'm impressed by that. However, as you can tell, you've got some training to do. Itaka made an annoyed look. Don't worry Itaka, you'll get there soon. However, what you did tonight was risky, first off by engaging the Umbu and second by testing out an untrained power in the heat of combat. I understand, but I couldn't just leave you to fight them alone and I had to use the Sharingan. Haha, don't be calling me weak Itaka. I can handle myself, you know. No, that's not what I dash. I know Itaka. Just be careful, alright? Just remember to never try untrained power in combat. It may have ended alright now, but it may not always be the case. I will, Shisui. Itaka passed out finally and Shisui smiled as he continued walking. 10 minutes later he arrived to Itaka's home and surprisingly Fugaku was outside. Back already? How'd he do? He's exceptional, Fugaku-sama. I can definitely work with him, no problem. In fact, I'd like to start tomorrow. Of course. That's really good to hear. You said this was to be a 3-day exercise. What happened? I'm not exactly sure how classified this will become, but I'm sure that what I tell you will be right, seeing as it wasn't too major. We ran into an Umbu and 3 of Lord Danzo's Umbu. Itaka fought one and handled himself well. Outside of that I can't really say anything else. Fugaku just nodded. I'll take him inside, thank you. When will you come for him? 8. Okay. Shisui shunshined to his house. Itaka, you don't cease to amaze. I can tell that you and I are going to be good friends. Shisui smiled seeing Naruto sleeping on Kakashi's lap, who was also sleeping on the couch facing the TV. Aw man, he's gonna get Naruto addicted to that thing. That's the end of this part, guys. If you want the next part, then like, subscribe and leave a comment saying so. This is Maelstrom signing off.